Hello, I'm Teresa. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me here today. Today we're going to be printing. We're going to be printing on fabric, and I'm going to be using pan pastels and acrylic paint to decorate and create these lovely gift bags. Gift bags, super eco-friendly packaging. You can reuse them, you can keep them to store things in. They're not just going to get screwed up, thrown in the bin, sent to landfill like a lot of Christmas wrapping paper and birthday wrapping paper does. Really easy to create, and whether you're going to use something like this shop bought bag or whether you're going to use some scraps of fabric to sew your own bags, something for everybody here. So I'm going to clear these out of the way and I shall be back to show you how it's done. As always, I'll begin with a quick rundown of what we're using today. Today I want to use these little shaped gel plates. I've got the oval and I've got the hexagon. These are by Gel Press. They're Gel Press Petites. There's also a rectangle in this set of 3. They do another set. I think it has a circle, a square and a triangle, something like that. I am also going to show you a sort of alternative technique that if you don't have a shaped gel plate, if all you've got is a rectangular one, doesn't matter what size, I will show you a little masking technique which allows you to do something also quite pretty. And I'm just going to be using this 3 by 5 inch one. Again, Gel Press, gel printing plate. I'm going to show you how by masking off with a bit of paper, we can create a nice patterned border. But as I say, if you happen to have one of the shaped plates, absolutely ideal. I'm also going to be using the plate on an acrylic block. Just makes it easier to pick up and then we can see where we want to position it. If you don't have one of these, maybe the lid off a plastic container, an old CD case, something that the plate will cling to and that is transparent that you can see through would be ideal. If you don't have one at all and no sort of alternatives, you can put your fabric down on top. Just bear in mind it's not quite so easy to see where you're positioning it, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have a plate. I have some pan pastels. I'm using pan pastels today. I will link up in the corner. I've done printing with pan pastels onto paper before, and I'll show you that. If you want to go and watch that, I'll also link it in the end card at the end of the video. I have 6 bright colours here. I have a red, a magenta, yellow, green, a light blue and a purple. I love pan pastels. They're really highly pigmented, really nicely finely ground colour, and they work really well with acrylic paint for on the gel plate. Talking of acrylic paint, I have some here. I have a white and this bleached sand, like a very light buff colour. I've got some foam here for just applying the pastels to the plate. This is actually made by the Pan Pastel company. It's their soft foam, as they call it, blending foam. A cosmetic little foam shape would be ideal. If you've got maybe the finger daubers, little sponge finger daubers, or indeed the ink blending tools, they would work as well. I will say pan pastels will stain your plate somewhat. You can remove the staining using baby oil or mineral oil. It might take several attempts to do that, but it will remove it. Don't worry, you've not permanently ruined your plate. But if staining is something you're worried about, I just wanted to warn you in advance that these, being so highly pigmented, you do get some surface staining, albeit temporary. I've got some stencils here. This is a Americana decor stencil. It's like a chrysanthemum flower. This one here, Tim Holtz collection, Stampers Anonymous. It's like an all over flourish. And then I've got these 2. I don't know the brands. I bought a bundle of used stencils off a crafty friend. So there's this one here with a floral lattice design and this sort of swirly border. Reminds me of sort of a wrought iron design. So I'm using those. You want something fairly small all over pattern. We're using small size plates, so just bear that in mind. I have a brayer, speedball soft rubber brayer. I have some scrap paper. I do also have a sheet of, this is just a sheet of acrylic. You could use that or a non-stick crafting mat, just something to put my paint on, just to get it onto my brayer before putting it onto the plates. And finally, because we're going to be making some little gift bags, I have some gift bags. Now you can go and purchase something like this, a ready-made, just natural cotton gift bag. Got this from a craft store. I'm sure you can buy them on Amazon, somewhere like that. If you don't want to do that, maybe like me as well, you've got some scraps of fabric at home. So I've just cut myself some pieces. This is a piece of muslin. This is a piece of just natural cotton, much like the shop bought bag. And this is just some linen. I've used this bag as a sort of rough guide. This bag for you is 11 centimetres wide. So I've cut strips of fabric that are 13 centimetres wide, and that'll just give me a seam allowance. Folded them in half, so the fold will be the bottom of the bag. And all I need to do when I've printed is just fold down a little channel at the top for the drawstring on either side, and then I can seam up the sides and create a gift bag. So I'll be doing that once I've done my printing. But as I say, you can, if you don't have any fabric, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can easily get these just as plain fabric gift bags. And I just thought it's quite nice. We're trying to be a bit more responsible with our wrapping. You know, with Christmas coming, a lot of Christmas gift wrap just ends up in the bin. Things with glitter and foils on are not biodegradable. So maybe making some little gift bags that are a nice keepsake in themselves. They're reusable. For those of you that are concerned about that sort of thing, I thought this was a nice project to try. I think that's everything. I've got some paper towel, I have some paper, I've got baby oil for cleaning up. But other than that, I think that's all we're going to be using today. So to begin with, I'm going to decide which stencil to start with. I've put my oval gel plate onto this block. I think I'm going to use this floral design. I'm just going to centre that onto my plate and then have a little think, what colour do I want to use? I think I'm going to begin with some yellow. So take a piece of my foam here, dab it into the pastel and apply it over the stencil onto the plate, and it clings really well onto the plate surface. I'm thinking I'm going to blend this into another colour, so I'm going to get some of the red and starting at the bottom, go up and blend that, create a bit of an ombre effect. I think would be nice. Now I can remove my stencil and you can see the lovely design we've got on there. Clean the stencil off with a bit of paper towel and water. Pan pastel will come off that really easily. So next we need to get some paint on here. Now I am just using acrylic paint. You can use fabric paint if you have fabric paint, but these little gift bags, I'm assuming they're not going to be washed. It doesn't need to be fabric paint. You can mix fabric medium with acrylic paint if necessary. But I don't see the point of going to that added expense of getting a fabric medium or using a fabric paint unless you've already got one for something that is not going to have to be washed, or it's not like it's an item of clothing or housewares. I really think that just normal acrylic paint will be absolutely fine for this. So I'm going to be using this bleached sand colour because it's as close as I can get to the colour of my gift bags. I'll put a little bit of paint onto this acrylic sheet that I've got just so that I can apply it onto my brayer. And then I just want to lightly cover the plate with paint. Get my gift bag, pick up my plate so that I can see where I'm placing it, decide which way. Do I want to put one? Do I want to put two? I think I'm just going to put one in the centre. place it down, just give it a little moment, pressing it, just want that to transfer onto the fabric. And remove it like so, and we've got that lovely decorative design on our gift bag. And say, by choosing a colour of paint that is very closely matched to my background, it's not so obvious. If I'd used the white, I would see the white oval, but I'm really pleased with that. All we need to do is allow that to dry, so I'm going to set that aside. As you can see, we still have quite a lot of colour on this plate. You can continue to pull prints with these pan pastels. I'm maybe just going to do a few on this piece of paper here. As you can really transfer a lot of colour. And say, if you watched my other video on pan pastels, you'll see that you can get many prints from one application of pastel. I don't know how it does it, it just seems to keep going and going. So as you can see, still a bit of colour coming off. I'm going to put that to one side. That'll go in my stash. I might be able to cut those out and use them for something. As you can see, there is still colour on the plate, but we'll clean that off. Begin with a bit of water to get rid of the acrylic paint. Then I'm going to take some baby oil and sort of work that in. And as you can see, the baby oil, it fetches it out, it gets the colour out. So next up, I'm going to show you, if you don't have a shaped plate, if all you've got is a rectangular plate of any size, how you can do something very similar. So this time I'm going to take this border stencil, this long flourish stencil. I'm going to pop it across my plate, and I think I'm going to do this one in decisions. I think I'll use the magenta and the purple. Same as before, we're going to apply the pastel through the stencil so we can get the design on the plate. Then remove your stencil. You've got this beautiful design. It's like really crisp as well because the pastel is dry. It's not wet. You're not going to get any oozing. You get a nice crisp, clean effect. Once again, I'm going to take some paint. Cover the plate like that. Then I'm going to take some of this paper. I've just torn the edge. I used this masking technique for a recent video with magazine transfers and text transfers. And I'm just going to mask off a narrow strip of the design. So if you've got a large plate, you can still mask it down to this narrow area. And I'm going to take my fabric this time because I haven't made it into a completed bag. I haven't stitched it up yet. Now this is the fold, this is the bottom of my bag. So I'm going to place my fabric down onto the plate and avoiding getting pastels all over it off my hand. I'm going to press down until I've transferred it nicely. I'm just going to get a piece of paper so I can rub a bit firmer without making a mess on the other side of the fabric. You remove your fabric and you've got this beautiful printed pattern. Lovely, it's almost vintage effect with it, but can't wait to see what that looks like when it's all stitched up. Now what I think I'm going to do here is, because I've still got the colour on there, put some more paint on and print on the other side so that this border will run all the way around this bag. Just remove that little fibre. And I can see by sort of lining up the print on this side, but I will just move that out of the way. I don't want to mess that up. And again, just going to press down. And there we have some design on the other side as well. It's a little bit fainter because it's the second one, but it will continue all the way around. I'm going to set that aside to dry. A nice little bit of design there on my masks. Now again, you can take some more prints off this if you want to, onto some paper. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to remove this. So next up I'm going to use the Hexagon plate. I've popped this onto my acrylic block again, and I'm going to use this sort of lattice, floral lattice design. So I'm going to see about covering the whole plate with colour this time, rather than just through the gaps in the stencil. So to begin with, I'm trying to decide what colours to use this time, and I'm thinking actually I might go for the blue and the purple. And I'm going to start with the lighter colour, the blue, and I'm going to apply colour all over my plate. Like that. I'm now going to pop my stencil on. I'm just going to try and sort of apply it fairly centred, quite straight, like so. And I'm going to apply the purple through, but I want to just take a little bit of this blue off first. So I'm just going to take some paper towel that I'm just adding a little bit of water to see if I can blot some of the pastel up. It's not going to take all of it off, but I just want, if there's some sort of loose there, take some of that off. And then I can apply my darker colour through, which is the purple. You'll find you'll need to hold the stencil in place a little more. It's not going to cling to this plate because there is pastel on the surface of the plate. Obviously when you lay it down on the bare plate, it clings quite well. So just bear that in mind as you're applying your colour through, that you just need to hold it a little bit more in place. Then you can remove your stencil. If you've got any, I've got a little bit of loose dust there. Just to blow a little of that off. And once again, we need to pop some paint on. Take our piece of fabric. This time I can pop the fabric down onto my desk. And press down. And now we have a fully coloured hexagon, as opposed to our first one that we did where we just had the stencil design, which was on a sort of an almost invisible background. So really like that as well. Again, no reason why you can't do the design, do the other side, take some prints onto some paper or card. Use the colour that's left if you want to. And for our last one, I think I'm going to use the oval again. and I'm trying to decide on colours. I'm very indecisive today on what colours to use. I'm thinking the blue and the green maybe. I want to use this sort of border design. I don't know. I just don't think I can get enough of that design onto my plate. No, I've changed my mind. I'm going to use this all over flourish design instead. And I'm thinking, just try and decide on my placement of the pattern. Now this time I'm going to be printing onto my linen. Now I could choose a darker colour paint, but I think this will show you, if you were to use a different colour, slightly different colour than the fabric you're printing on, this will show you the effect that you get. So this buff colour is a little lighter. So we should get a contrast in the background rather than a background that just sort of disappears. So as you can see, we've got this lighter oval. Going to use this again. Just want to put a piece of paper underneath because this is going to overhang the edge slightly. And there we've created a nice sort of pattern border across the front of this bag. So I'm going to clean my plate for the last time, clean my brayer, put all these away, because then I can get ready to stitch up this fabric and create the finished bags. And these are the finished bags. We began with this one here, the shop bought bag that I printed with the yellow and red and created this blended background. This buff paint in the background disappears really well on this fabric, so it just sort of leaves this nice sort of starburst design. Then we did the bag where I created this border. I masked the border off and I printed on both sides there. The second side fainter design than the first side, but really like that nice little sort of vintage feel to that. I just stitched up the sides of the bag, sewed a little channel at the top, and I popped some lace in there for a drawstring. Thought the lace made a nice sort of complement to that vintage effect. Then we did the hexagon where we coloured the whole plate with the blue first and then added the purple on top. Again, stitched up the sides, sewed a little channel at the top and just put in some seam binding ribbon there to create the drawstring. And finally, this was our linen bag where we stamped 3 times to create this repeating design. Now I could have continued that round, that would have been nice to continue on the other side. But I've just done the front there and used a little brown gingham ribbon there just to create the drawstring. Thought that worked really well. So I hope this has given you a little more inspiration of what to do with your plates, a little inspiration of what to do with those small plates, the shaped ones, or indeed, you know, how to just adapt whatever size plate you've got and create these little patterned borders. You could even cut out an oval or circle or hexagon shape from a piece of card or paper and mask off a plate and just have the shape showing as well if you wanted to do that. But as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and I shall see you again soon. Bye.